That's a difficult question because I didn't know we were in the information society.
The BMW E38 7 Series is one of the most pioneering cars ever produced. When it first came out back in 1995, it featured some of the most advanced electronics in terms of safety, comfort, and driving dynamics. Now, when BMW comes to mind, it's usually the 3 Series or 5 Series, and for good reason. Those two cars have asserted themselves as the benchmarks in their segments and have also helped BMW's slogan of the ultimate driving machine. And also, you can pick those cars up for a bargain after depreciation. Unfortunately though, the BMW 7 Series doesn't get much love, and there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, when BMW comes to mind, it's usually about being quick, nimble, and having a manual transmission, and the 7 Series isn't really associated with those terms. And secondly, no matter how good the 7 Series is, it will always live in the shadow of the S-Class because Mercedes has cemented the S-Class to be the leader of the full-size luxury sedans. But if there has to be one 7 Series to be remembered, it's the E38. With its good looks, excellent driving dynamics, and clever marketing gimmicks it used, it proved to be the leader of the full-size luxury sedans from 1995 till 2001, and honestly, and quite possibly, the best 7 Series ever made. So, let's see why.
Alright, so this E30 is a 2001 740i with the M Sport package. And what the M Sport package basically entails is a lot of goodies without too many compromises. You get a upgraded suspension, which is basically stiffer all around and lower at the front. And you also get a upgraded differential with a shorter final drive ratio and a beefed up anti-sway bar at the front. And as for the transmission, you get a higher stall speed torque converter, and you also get a lot of nice interior and exterior features that I'll go over later. Anyways, let's try and do a 0 to 60 run. Now, just a few quick specs about the car. It's got a 4.4 V8 under the hood that's naturally aspirated and is known as the M62, and that engine was essentially BMW's garden variety V8 they used at the time. It was used in the 5 Series, 7 Series, and also the X5, so should something break, parts shouldn't be too hard to acquire. It puts down 282 horsepower and 325 foot-pounds of torque, and power is sent to the rear wheels. And when we do this 0 to 60 run, I think that upgraded differential is really going to help to put power to the ground, and we'll also use sport mode. Other than that, let's see how close we can get to its original 5.9 0 to 60 time. So what is this 7 Series like to drive? Well, if you were to drive it without knowing its age, you would never expect that it's from 2001. Things like the steering, the power delivery, the transmission, they really feel precise considering the car's age. And you can definitely have fun with this car in the twisties, and very little in terms of ride comfort is sacrificed. Now, in order to understand this car, however, we need to go back in time and understand what the market was like in 2001.
Back in 2001, if you wanted a full-size luxury sedan, then it all depended on your status. For instance, if you were a doctor, a diplomat, or even a mafia boss, you would drive or be driven in a Mercedes W220 S-Class. If you were a 70-year-old investment banker who loved pennies, then your preferred ride would be a Jaguar XJ. And if you were boring but smart, then your choice of ride would be a Lexus LS. But if you were a yuppie who was riding the wave of success of the dot-com era and projected that Microsoft would be acquiring your booming startup in the near future, then this was your ride, the BMW 740i M Sport from 2001. Now don't get me wrong, those previous sedans I mentioned are definitely luxurious and status symbols, but they're boring and they were meant for old men. This offered something that they couldn't, and that was the ultimate combination of sport and luxury while being able to show to the rest of the world how successful you were.
So now that we have an idea about the segment, it's easy to see why the M Sport was the best driver's car. Sure, the S-Class offered its AMG counterparts, specifically the S55 and S63, and to be honest, they were probably a lot faster. But AMG also had a much different philosophy. They simply stuck a big, powerful, and nice sounding engine into the S-Class and not much else. The M Sport, on the other hand, was a lot different. It focused a lot more on chassis tuning and suspension. And don't get me wrong, while the S-Class would be great for situations like a drag strip or a highway, the M Sport would be the car of choice if you were on a back road.
Again, if you compare this car to the competition, the Mercedes S-Class, while it does look a little bit more modern looking, it's also kind of round and bloated and honestly a little ugly. The Jag, while it looks classy, it's kind of old. To me, the M Sport is the best looking out of all of them because it's got this timeless conservative design language. And also, those other sedans that I mentioned, the Lexus, the Jag, and the Mercedes, I mean, they're meant for old and boring people, while the E38 M Sport, it appeals to drivers and all enthusiasts. Listen to this, ready? I don't know why, but a nice sounding bank vault door is always really satisfying to listen to. Anyways, because this is the 7 Series, we have to address the rear, and specifically the back seats. This is honestly the best place to be in the car, because the seats are super comfortable and the leather is really nice quality. And what I really like about this car sitting in the back is there's actually a lack of technology. I find that it makes things not outdated in the future. And you also get some really nice chrome and wood accents back here. And up front we've got these leather sport contour seats with extra bolstering that can be adjusted in many ways. And as for the infotainment system, while it is a bit outdated, it's got a few party tricks and is overall fairly easy to use. I think BMW has done a great job combining luxury and driving dynamics here. They've definitely made the car not too large, but at the same time comfortable enough to fit 4 or 5 people.
Now, it's no surprise that this car absolutely shines in the city or on the highway. That 4.4 liter V8 under the hood is very smooth, and it gives you some nice grunt if you want to accelerate past someone. And as for the stiffer suspension, it's not backbreaking. It's definitely at the perfect meeting spot between sportiness and comfort. Overall, if you want to push this car, the 740i welcomes you to do so. Alright, let's talk about a few points that I like about how this car drives. The first is handling. Now, this is a BMW, and BMWs are known for good handling, and this 740i is really no exception. Given its length and size, I would say overall it's quite precise, and wherever you point the steering wheel, it will go there. And it's also pretty communicative. You can definitely feel the road, and that's definitely a plus considering that today's luxury sedans feel dead and numb. Anyways, the car itself has a circulating ball setup, and while a rack and pinion setup may be a bit more precise, the circulating ball is there because of the bigger weight in the front of the car. But overall, I think BMW has done a good job of making this car feel really comfortable when you want to cruise, and precise if you want to take it in a back road. Secondly, what I like is how BMW has set up the drivetrain. Now, you're going to find that this car definitely isn't an M3, and it's nowhere near as agile, and that's pretty much due to its 4,200 pound curb weight and size. But at the same time, if you know how to modulate the throttle correctly, you'll find that this car isn't really a slouch, and that upgraded differential plays a huge role in that, in putting power to the ground at lower speeds. And as for the transmission, it's a 5-speed auto gearbox with the Steptronic function. And while it may tax your fuel economy, you'll find that it's overall pretty smooth, and for the most part it does know what gear to be in. overall, if you want to push this car, peak horsepower and torque come on well after 5,000 RPM, and that's a typical behavior that's seen in the BMW inline sixes, and that you have to work for the power. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's fun and it's rewarding, and it definitely adds to the driving experience, but I can definitely understand people who want their V8s to have a bit more low-end grunt. But the good news is that power delivery is super linear, and the gas pedal has a really nice weight to it. And finally, I really like the driving position. Now, I know that 7 Series are more about the rear seat comfort, but I really like this setup. For instance, the center console, it's angled right towards the driver, and the gauges in the front here, they're super clear to read. And also, these seats are super comfortable, and they offer the perfect amount of bolstering without making you feel uncomfortable. Anyways, here's a few things I don't like about the car. The first thing is the brake pedal. Now, don't get me wrong, the brakes are alright. They do a pretty good job. I think Motor Trend back in the day had a recorded 60 to 0 stop of 110 feet, which is pretty decent, but it's the pedal itself that's not very good. There's just too much travel to it. There's a big amount of deadness at the very beginning, and then it starts to bite. And the second thing that I don't like about the car is the interior plastics. It seems that BMW has cut a few corners regarding things like cup holders and plastic cubbies here in the center console, and they seem to wear out pretty easily with minimal use, and then are pretty useless. Honestly though, not a huge issue, but I wish, given how good the rest of the car is, like the leather and the wood, I wish they paid a little bit more attention to that. Overall though, I think these are pretty minor gripes, considering how good the car is.
Well everyone, thank you so much for watching this review of my 2001 740i M Sport. Now, the 7 Series has always been a fantastic car. Well, for the most part. But I guess the question is the E38 the best 7 Series ever produced? Well, in my opinion, yes. And that's because newer 7 Series are simply too complicated, and once they get affordable, they're a little bit hard to maintain. The E38, however, isn't that bad. It's modern enough in terms of driving and creature comforts, but it's also not super complicated to the point where you can't work on it yourself. And when you combine that with its good looks and how it was the segment leader at the time, it's easy to see why enthusiasts love them, and hence easily making it the most loved 7 Series. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and if you're interested about the 2001 740i M Sport, I'll definitely be making more content about it, so stay tuned. In the meantime, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all the good stuff, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.